Maverick Vinales did not lose his seat. He signed to keep it. KTM emailed him a contract. He put his name on it, and 2 weeks later they told him it never counted. This is a rider who once fought for a MotoGP title, holding a signed deal that his own factory decided to pretend did not exist. And now he is not talking about which team he joins next. He is talking about whether he stays in Grand Prix racing at all. So what actually happened inside KTM between the signature and the silence? And how does a factory turn a former title contender into a man looking for the exit? Riders lose seats every season. That is not the story. The story is that this one had a signature on it. A contract is the one thing in this sport that is supposed to be safe, the moment where talk becomes a promise you can hold. KTM handed him that promise, then took it back like it was a typo. And the damage did not stop at the garage door. Something broke in how Vinales sees the whole sport, and you can hear it in the way he now talks about his future. Because a lost ride, you replace. This is something else. Start with what everyone already knows. KTM's 2027 factory lineup is Alex Marquez and Fabio Di Giannantonio, the reigning championship runner-up and a race winner. Vinales, the man they'd promised a factory bike, was not one of them. On the surface, that is an ordinary grid move. A younger rider comes in, an expensive veteran goes out, the kind of reshuffle silly season produces every year. If that were all this was, nobody would still be talking about it in Germany this weekend. But Vinales did not go quiet, and he did not stay vague. He laid out a sequence of events that a factory really does not want its riders repeating in public. It starts after Barcelona, when the ground under his KTM future first shifted. So he went to KTM and asked them directly. What happened next is the part that does not fit the tidy version of a veteran being moved on. Here is what Vinales says happened. When he arrived at Mugello, KTM sent him a contract. Not a conversation, not a maybe. An actual contract, in his email, ready to sign. And he signed it. Now sit with the detail he added, because it is the one that changes how you read everything after. In his own words, even though it was against my own interests, I signed it. Because, as he put it, I really believe in KTM's engineers. Think about what that means. He knew the deal was bad. He said so out loud. And he put his name on it anyway, because he wanted to race, and he trusted the people building the bike more than he trusted his own leverage. Then came the part no signature should ever meet. 2 weeks later, KTM told him the contract was dead. 2 weeks later, they told me it wasn't valid, he said. No renegotiation, no better offer, just gone, as if the signing had never happened. From the other side, the tone tells its own story. Tech 3 boss Guenther Steiner, now deep inside the KTM structure, was asked about Vinales going public, and he did not reach for warmth. If you're a beggar, you cannot be a chooser, Steiner said. Read that back. That is how the organisation talks about a rider who signed the deal they sent him. Not a partner, a beggar. When a factory frames a former Grand Prix winner that way in public, the contract story stops looking like a misunderstanding and starts looking like a decision. And there is one more piece he mentioned almost in passing, the detail that shows how far the trust had already collapsed before any contract arrived. He never got the news about losing his seat from KTM at all. He found out the way the public did, from what got published. A factory let a former title contender read his own replacement in the press. Then came the last confirmation, the one that needed no press release. When KTM ran its test at Brno, Vinales was not called up. For a rider still technically in the mix, a test is the one place you fight for your future. He was not there. In his own words, not being called for the Brno test made it clear he was not going to continue with KTM. The signature was dead. The test seat was gone. And the man who trusted the engineers was standing outside the tent. And notice the timing. Vinales did not save this for a quiet interview months from now. He said it on the record during a live race weekend while he is still technically riding KTM machinery. That is not a rider protecting his future with the factory. That is a rider who has already decided there is nothing left to protect. So let us be honest about what this actually is. Everyone filed this under silly season. Veteran loses seat to younger rider, sad but normal. Next story. That framing is wrong. This was never a story about a seat. It is a story about what a factory is willing to do to a rider who still believed in it, and what that does to the man on the other end. Because watch where Vinales goes next, in his own words. He does not talk like someone shopping for another garage. He talks like someone questioning the whole thing. I feel outside this world, he said. And then the line that should stop every KTM executive cold. I don't think I'll continue, not with KTM. In MotoGP, a former title contender, a rider fast enough to win races on more than one manufacturer, now describing the sport as something he is standing outside of. That is the flip. People thought KTM was managing a roster. They were actually breaking a rider's belief that the sport plays fair. You do not arrive at, I feel outside this world from losing a seat. You get there from signing a promise, watching the people you trusted tear it up, then being told in public that you were a beggar for expecting them to honour it. The seat was replaceable. The faith was not. KTM says it was waiting to see him back to full fitness. But you do not send a man a contract, kill it, and let him read his own replacement in the press if you still see him in your future. So where does that leave him? The competitive seats for 2027 are already gone. The factory rides are locked, and what remains on the grid is satellite machinery that does not tempt a rider who was winning races not long ago. That is the trap. There is no obvious next chapter that makes sense for a rider of his level, which is exactly why he is not talking about dropping down. He is talking about walking away. He now describes himself as burnt out of the whole world, and for once, it does not read like a negotiating line. It reads like a man who has already started planning a life without a race number. Make no mistake about what KTM did here. They did not simply choose Di Giannantonio over Vinales. Teams make roster calls every year, and nobody questions the right to. What they did was send a signature, kill it, and let a former title contender find the truth in the press and in an empty test garage. You can move a rider on without doing any of that. KTM chose the version that broke him, and the cost is not one seat. Every rider still talking to KTM about 2027 just watched what a signed KTM contract is worth. It is a rider who no longer believes the sport is worth staying in, and a factory that just showed the entire grid exactly what its word means. So here is the real question. What is a signature worth if the factory that sent it can erase it in 2 weeks? Vinales already has his answer, and it might cost the sport a rider who still had wins left in him. Do you blame KTM for this, or do you think he torched it himself? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.